No. Yes. Thank you. Yes, and then we propose you to find haiku or to write your own if you wish, and create a rule or a few rules, and then try to create choreography with these rules out of the, so create kind of translation from text into motion. Hopefully you enjoyed the process. Hopefully you love experimenting the same way as we love it, because for us it seems like love to experiment is should be, or I don't know, I think it should be a nature of any contemporary artist, I believe. So we love experimenting. We would love to hear some of maybe whatever. There's just your haiku and your rules. And if you created choreography, you can show us some of your choreography. If not, I can try to recreate, to make translation into movement of your haiku with your rules right here. Or maybe you want to do it, so we'll find a way. What kind of things we will do today during the meeting. Just want to remind you that we have 40 minutes, quite a limited time. We will finish at 2:50, so our meeting is not very long, but so don't be shy to present your ideas, text, to ask questions, to dance, to communicate. Yeah, let's start. Peter?
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Anton said, that this is all really in the spirit of experimentation and thinking of it as a laboratory and what there might be to learn by trying some things out.
So the ball is on your side, guys. Do you have anything to present us? Do you want to talk about something you've tried to do? We'll be happy.
I mean, I can start. Oh.
Who? Stanislava or Olga?
Seems our connection maybe is a little
weak.
Okay, I can start.
Okay.
But it was so good to start with Stanislava at the same moment. Yes, and maybe it will be like we talk about it's interesting to see. Okay, I have one haiku, but it's in Ukrainian language, and I don't know, I can read it, and Anton can try to translate it if it's possible. Okay, yes. 100 краєвидів за коротку мить у запалі намалювали хмари.
100 oh, I know who can translate. Stanislava. She can make it perfect, I believe.
Landscapes, yes, maybe.
Yeah,
100 landscape in one moment was painted by the clouds. Yeah, or was drawn by the clouds.
Ага, і у запалі, я не знаю, як перекласти.
In excitement. Yeah, that they made it in excitement. So
like
one more time from the first line, second and third line.
First line. 100 краєвидів за коротку мить.
100 sceneries in very short moment.
У запалі. Це друга строчка. У запалі. І третя намалювали хмари.
Was painted by the clouds.
Okay, and I choose 4 rules for this.
Guys, one moment.
to
One moment.
create
We're
a
having a
movement.
little bit of technical difficulty here, so one moment, please.
We don't see your video. We just hear your sound. Just a moment. No, yes, it's reconnected. Can you please turn off your camera and then turn on again, Olga, because
Okay.
you still. Okay, and once again. Oh, yes, now
That's
we
better.
see you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I have 4 rules for this, and first, choose 2 words. They are contrasting in meaning. Use this contrast to create a movement combination.
This is the first rule.
Contrast, yes, between meaning
Okay.
of 2 words.
Uh-huh.
Second, the length of the word correlates with the speed of movement. And this is for any line.
So kind of we kind of suppose that one letter is 0 speed, and for example, I just as a performer try to imagine, and maybe 10 letters in a word means maximum speed. So I can find
Or
somewhere
different.
in the middle.
Yes,
Or
or different,
okay.
and you can choose it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Third is choose 2 letters, create their shape, and repeat as many times in combination as there are these letters in the line. And this is for any line too.
So you choose one letter.
One letter, yes.
Recreate its shape and repeat it as many letters, the same letters you have in one line.
Yes.
So you do choreography, then you make shape. Then you continue choreography, then again same shape. Then and again same shape. Okay.
And for any lines, you can choose any line for this rule. And 4, pause after each line.
Yes. We also use it.
Yes, it's maybe it's easy, but sometimes the line stop when the meaning continues. And that's why it's interesting. It was interesting for me. Okay, and I have.
Yeah, and you have choreography.
Yeah.
Great. Let's see it.
Okay, and I will try to share my screen. Okay.
Might have to allow that.
It's not allowed.
Go to security.
Just a moment, Peter.
Yes.
And allow participants share screen. Okay, now it's allowed.
Okay, yes.
And let's do
No. Sorry.
That's interesting. We didn't have anything like that.
Okay, maybe. Okay.
It's there. Yeah. Let's see. Okay.
And that's all. It's not, for me, it's not sharp, but yes, it was so interesting to create it with these rules.
Why? What was interesting about it? Or say more than just that.
Tell me again, please.
You said it was interesting, and I want to understand why. What was interesting about it?
Interesting to have in my head, first of all, it was not so easy, and sometimes what is not so easy, it's interesting for me.
Sure.
To have in my head some different rules, and I have to keep it in my attention, all of this at the same time, and yes, sometimes, you know, it's not like usual way to continue my combination. You know, like, yes, I want to do like this, but oh, no. With these rules, I cannot do like this. And second version of my choreography, it was so interesting. It was some unexpected, and it was interesting to dance it, because, you know, for me, it's not like every moment some expectable ways for movement.
Thank you for sharing, Olga. I think one of the things that we've been finding here and talking about a little bit in our workshop in Visaginas is that the rules are sometimes useful because they, I don't know, this might sound a little unusual, so translate if you need to, but they can sometimes get us outside of ourselves. They can help us get away from our own habits in order to find new possibility. And also, I think sometimes when we can be in the service of something that's other than our, let's say, ego, or how we feel ahead of time about something, we can, I think, find a kind of fullness, a kind of embodied expression that can have a new kind of clarity.
And what is interesting for me also, as an answer to what you've just said, is that the more we think about rules, the more rules we can find. Because when we're just thinking, okay, there is a line, what can I do with that? How can I use these letters? How can I use the number of letters, or number of vowels, or number of syllables, and or I don't know what, as some of our participants also use, like how you can try to shape movement according to the sound of words. Like you for example may say word and make something like word. Yeah, so sound of movement impact the sound, a sound of word impact the sound of the shape of movement. And yeah, and the more you think about it, the more you can find, and the more interesting it become. And I also agree that it's somehow help to get to this aside out of your patterns, which you usually do, which you love to work with, to find something new, because you have some limitations and you need to think about that. And even more interesting for me when you work with another person instructions. That's like you work with the choreographer, but what was we tried different ways. You can just give your instructions, all of these rules, to another person and don't say anything, or you can give tools and have possibility to communicate, to say these rules just to be more clear, to clarify rules for the person. I want it to be this, and this, blah blah blah. This is another thing how we can work with that.
I think the one other comment I'll say before, it'd be nice to maybe see somebody else's work or hear about it, is it's also really useful, I think, I'm sure you all experienced this, when there's a question behind what you're doing somehow, like you're trying to figure something out, right? Maybe you're trying this kind of way of working for the first time, and you're trying to understand, what does it feel like to move my body in the shape of this letter, or to, all right, how many times do I repeat this shape of this idea? I think when we are in the process of actively in the moment working on a question of some kind, having an inquiry, I think we are, this may sound strange, a little more true in ourselves, and not quite so fixed, if that makes sense. Maybe people have different ideas about that, but I think there's something useful about when we're moving our body, that the movement is working on a kind of question. Just something maybe to think about.
So maybe Stanislava, you have something, you've been at the previous meeting, and maybe you prepared something?
Yes, so I did prepare. I have even a video, even though I had like oh, sorry. Yes, even though I had like an hour probably to prepare. It was really interesting. So for me, the idea was in the spirit of using the structure of the haiku as this structure for the dance as well. I wanted to combine the structure with a lot of freedom. And I tried to do something I like to do with photography. When what I did was I improvised whatever I wanted to do for as long as I wanted as a response to the poem. And then I took those, no, maybe there is a better way to talk about it. Okay, let me read my haiku first.
Okay.
Melted honey drips into my cupped hand. I taste the setting sun.
Once again, please.
Melted honey drips into my cupped hand. I taste the setting sun. I taste the setting sun.
Okay.
I worked from the rule that I voiced last time, but I changed it a little bit. So there are 17 letters in the haiku that repeat sometimes. And I used the gestures or the movements that I observed during the improvisation, and I picked separate ones and I assigned them to each letter that you meet in the text. And then the dance itself was just a sequence of those movements, and the sequence was governed by the sequence of the words in the poem. And then, because I wanted to not only use every letter, but also the overall structure of the poem, after the rule was that at the end, the last movement assigned to the last letter of the word, you had to freeze in it for the number of seconds or Mississippis equal to the number of syllables in the word. So you'd have 2 syllables, which means in the last movement, you freeze for Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2. And then when the change happens in the meaning of the poem that you talked about, I think I forgot the term for that, but in the first meeting you talked about it. So when the change happens, here it is, in my opinion, the I taste the setting sun, which makes you kind of look at the poem differently. That's where the rhythm or the tempo of the movement changes in the choreography as well. And so I thought the idea was that if I have a lot of freedom at the beginning with those movements that I can do during the improvisation, and I structure them this way, it would feel free in a way, which was not at all what it ended up being. So it ended up feeling like it was this incredibly rigid structure. It was interesting because the movements they completely lost any meaning for me, and it felt like doing yoga. And also because I didn't have enough time to really learn the sequences, I can show you the video as well. I think it's 2 minutes or so if we have the time. but I didn't have time because I just moved out of my house yesterday and I'm traveling and all that. Instead, I had this paper that was just drawings of
beautiful.
all the movements.
Oh, how beautiful. It's like
And I was
the
looking.
postcard dances that I told you about.
Ah, yeah, you can
Beautiful.
say about this. You can say about this.
Yeah, and I was looking. Yeah.
No, please.
Yeah.
go.
Please,
You
please
finish.
continue.
Yeah. And I was looking at it as I was doing the dance. And I can show the video. Should I? Do we have the time?
Yeah. We have
Yeah.
10 minutes, but yeah, you have time for this.
Just a second. I think it should be. Screen. Start podcast. Can you see it now? Can you see the
Yes.
video?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
And then Lois came.
Yes. Well, that was kind of the end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, can we just kind of, yeah. And if you want to give some comments, please. Yeah,
just briefly after we've seen it, so that I think it really felt like I didn't even feel like I was properly making the movements because I had to focus so much on the paper that it was really like I'm kind of sketching what I'm supposed to do. And it also, I noticed that it seems really repetitive, even though there are 17 different movements. But of course, I think it would be different if I had enough time to really learn it and be able to properly enunciate them. Yeah, but it's kind of, it was like 5 minutes and I just tried to do it. It's not even my apartment. Just got here.
Yeah, what I want to say also shortly, that's very interesting for those who are here with us now, is that now you saw the two translations, and they are absolutely different in terms of the tools and the ways of translations. And that's interesting that we also talked about that at the first meeting, that when we say about translation, we usually mean that we can translate it from one side to another and then back. So for example, from Ukrainian to English, and then from English to Ukrainian, which is quite kind of easy. Not the same at all with movement. That's almost impossible to translate from movement back into the same words, into the same poem. But as you see, for example, with the Stasia case, Stanislava, if the translator have this set of rules in front of him, so he can somehow try to get this information out of the
Like decoding,
back into
like another
words.
code.
Yeah, kind of decoding. So we actually talk about in our also workshop, in the frames of workshop, that this translation, when we talk about dance as an art form, has a lot of varieties. It could be very strict with very much limitations and very wide. Like we gave this example last time, that if the rules sounds like, please use one verb from the poem to create an atmosphere of the whole movement phrase. From one point of view, okay, that's clear. I should choose one verb to read it, to think about that, and we create the whole phrase should be somehow impacted by the meaning of this verb. But that's very difficult, very poetic way. And also it could be a very much detailed, like in case of Stanislava.
There's something, Stanislava, the drawing that you shared reminded me of
Read it.
There's an artist, an American dancer and painter named, I'm just going to put it in the chat, Remy Charlip. He danced with Merce Cunningham, if you've ever heard of Merce Cunningham, and he developed a strategy. I don't remember what the origin was. He was interested, and he sent a postcard by the mail to a dancer in some other city, and the postcard only had drawings of different body positions on it.
Quite similar like yours.
and he maybe gave one instruction, like said, do a turn after every movement. And so, and then he thought of the way that he thought of this was, I'm making a dance and putting it on a postcard, but I'm actually making the dance with the person who's receiving it and then translating those instructions into, they're completing the dance. It's like a shared process. So anyway, you're reminding me a little bit of that.
You can find it in the
I think they were called airmail dances.
Airmail dances, yeah.
Cool, thank you.
There's another thought that both of you are making me think of, and the strictness of these rules for developing movement material. I think, as we've talked about, is really interesting and in some cases challenging. To me, one of the elements that I think gets really fun to experiment with is atmosphere. And what is the atmosphere that we're taking from this poem, or that we're trying to express or somehow convey? It also becomes a very difficult thing to express in a way that is literal. Right? Atmosphere is a difficult thing to kind of convey without words, maybe, or without another kind of visual element.
Or I would say it's more about the actors' practices.
That's right.
Very often dancers is not as good actors as the professional actors. So when we tell the actor, like, to create some atmosphere, he can talk, to say text, but also have kind of emotional background. But it's not so easy for dancers, like find this emotional background and have a sequence of movement, but at the same time feel this emotional background through every movement.
And I would say that's one strategy to explore the emotional landscape of whatever you're trying to work on. And another might be to be thinking about atmosphere as texture, or as literally the air around you. What am I moving through? If I were moving through water, how might my movement quality change? Or if I were moving through honey, how might my movement quality change? That can also be a way to get at not just the mechanics of the movement, but can lend a different kind of specificity to the overall experience?
Yeah, so guys, we have last 5 minutes, and we will try to wrap up somehow what we've known. Yeah, but
Mhm.
here's 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a kind of interesting instrument that's we didn't. That's not we who invented it. That's not new things, but we just decided to explore it at the workshop, to give some limitations for our practices, to see how the limitations can change the way how we work with our bodies, to see how we can, that's also, you know, probably all of you choreographers here probably, so you know that choreographers not very often use text. Very often we just use some stories that they have, or emotions, or just whatever material, some visual material also could be. But this time we decided to see how we can work with text. We took the simplest poetic form, because maybe there are some more, even something even simpler than haiku, but haiku is simple. And to see how we can translate structure into movement. And at our workshop here, we saw that there's really a big number of the ways how to do it. And it feels like it could be really an interesting instrument for creating choreography also. Yeah.
Is there anybody else that maybe has a comment or an observation or a question that they'd like to share?
No.
No? Okay.
We're going to have, with our participants after tomorrow, we're going to have live presentation of the results of the workshop. So we're going to pick some material which was created and to present it to the audience. Just today we discussed it with our participants, how, the options, how we could do it. Tomorrow we'll have the rehearsal at the location. So
And
yeah.
everything will change.
Yeah,
because of that.
Yeah.
And we will learn new things and have to experiment all over again.
So guys, if you want to know more about this this workshop, we can send you more information. We created also a bank, let's say a bank of rules from all the participants of the workshop, different rules, and we will collect it somewhere on the Google Drive. So if you want to know more, if you want to share some ideas, if you want to ask something, write on the email of the Ukrainian dance platform, which is ua.dance.platform@gmail.com, and we will answer you. If you want to connect directly with Pieter Kайл, if he will be okay, yeah, he can also write you his email. You can send him and answer questions or comments or whatever. Yeah, and we always happy to get new contact, be in touch with colleagues and to share the knowledge and the information. And at the end, I just want to add the last minute that this project was supported by the Movement Research, the American Corner in Visaginas, and the Ukrainian Cultural Foundation. Thank you all very much and see you again. Love.
Thank you very much
everybody.
and good luck. Good luck.
Have fun.
Have fun. Bye bye, guys.
Stay creative.